everybody. Welcome to Coffee Hour with Paul. My name is Paul Abernathy, and if you don't know who I am the guy that you love to hate on the internet who talks about the National Electrical Code. So, thanks for taking time out of your morning. I know you have a busy morning, you have things planned. We're going to get your day started. For all you out there that are studying for an electrical exam or just want to brush up on your code knowledge, welcome. Glad to have you here. For those that are interested in asking questions about the National Electrical Code, please feel free to ask in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them the best we can. And if not, we will definitely answer it in an email if you want to contact us that way. If you have any questions about our programs, whatever question that may be, feel free to ask that as well. We'll do our best to answer that as well. We have a lot going on here at the Academy. So again, ask any question you want. We'll do our best to try to answer those questions for you. All right, so coffee hour, for those, it's been spotty, right? So we're here, some Wednesdays and some Wednesdays we're not. Well, we're trying to get back on schedule. Just a quick update for those that ask. Y'all know that my wife fell and broke her hip a couple weeks ago. She's doing better. She's able to get around. And we still have the memory thing, but that's not going anywhere. But she's able to get around. I got a great call last night from Mike Holt. Always checking up on her. Great guy. I can't say enough about Mike and his team. Everybody always thinks that me and Mike don't get along. The reality is we get along very well. And we're in business. Each have our own business. So, but a great guy. He called me last night and we talked. So it's great to hear from him. And it's not name dropping. He's a friend of mine. And I have a lot of friends in this industry. And, you never realize how many friends, you do have that you're like, yeah, I'm not in this to make friends, but, in the industry, we make them. And there's a lot of them that are great friends. So thanks for reaching out. And my wife is doing better. She's getting around. So that's always good. And she remembers who I am. So that's always a plus. Okay. All right. So exam prep. Couple things. We've signed on a lot of students lately in our exam prep program who didn't get our course, but they only had a few weeks, like a week or two, and they called and they wanted to know if the program would help them. Hey, Beto, what's up? Good to see you, Paul. I see you in here. Good morning to you as well. And I saw you in here, David. David, I made sure that the CMECP pin was straight, because I knew you were in the house. Okay, so I got that all straight. Okay, and Josh, I see you here. I'm sure Josh is probably also following over on TikTok. And by the way, we do stream on all of our platforms. We tried to stream this morning on Twitter or X. It didn't work. I think it's because you need a premium account, and I refuse to pay for a premium account on Twitter. Okay, I don't do much on Twitter, to be honest with you. So I was like, why do that? What's up, David? Glad to see you here. Now, we do stream behind the scenes over on TikTok. So if you're interested to go behind the scenes, all you get to do is see my fat profile and my mixing board or my whatever, if that's your flavor. You like that? Okay. What's up? Forgotten British Conflicts. Well, that's a long username there. Thanks for joining us in the stream. All right. So, reminder, folks, if you've never seen any of our streams before, if you go over to our Fast Trax 2 platform, we have a lot of streams over there that we've recorded and we replay them. Also on our YouTube channel, there are a lot of streams that you can go back and watch other episodes. Yes, a lot of them are salesy because, again, we're a business. We're promoting a business, but there's a lot of other content there. You have to look for it. Also on our website, be sure you check out our blogs, okay? And, make sure you check that out as well, because over on our blog, we do a lot of teaching in our blogs. So if you haven't checked out the blogs on our website, please go check that out as well. All right. Okay, so we're going to look at some exam prep questions today and have a conversation. Now, but what I will tell you is that I want to make sure that I'm also answering code questions that you may have, and we can go look it up. So if you have any code questions that you've run into on an exam and you're confused about, please feel free to write them in the comments if you want. But also, don't forget that we have a feature called Let's Ask Paul. And what we use to generate podcasts, and I'm going to admit I've been a little bit lax on that, but again, I've been dealing with a lot of issues with my wife in the last couple months, and the fall just made it worse. I see the crest, right? I see we're getting over that, and it's getting a little bit better. So again, this is 2 weeks in a row I've done the Wednesdays, so it's getting better. So let's keep moving in that direction. But we do have the feature over on our website where you can ask us code questions and submit them. So all you got to do is go to fasttracksystem.com, and in the navigation, you'll see it says, Let's Ask Paul. So again, it's just an easy way to do it. You also can go to paulabernathy.com, and that should send you there as well. Okay. All right, let's go. Enough of that talking. Let's go look at a code question. All right. Again, if you have any questions about the question, okay, if you have any questions about how we dissect the question, please feel free to put it in the comments. We'll see it on the screen, and I'll try to elaborate for you. Look, one thing I tell students all the time about exam prep, whether you're in the field and you've been doing this for, God knows, 30, 40 years, you're going to run into situations where something just comes up and you're saying, look, I'm looking at a question or I'm just reading it and something's just not clicking. I'm not able to find the root. And remember, even though we teach you this method of dissecting a question, that's not immune from saying you'll get an exam or you'll be out in the field and something just doesn't exactly jive with the question to make you be able to go somewhere and find the answer right away. So, I mean, it's going to happen. But it seems as of late, I've been getting a lot of students that call us up, and they're in the last week or two before their exam, and they want to know, what should I do? Now, I actively, believe it or not, you can ask students, I actively steer people away from buying our course if you're only got a week or two before your exam. The reason for that is it's an awful lot. What's up, King? Welcome from Seattle. Welcome. Glad to have you here. A lot of people realize that it's an awful lot of information in our program. I get people that ask us all the time, do we cover calculations? Absolutely. Do we cover how to look up a code question? Absolutely. Do we have code database of questions? Absolutely. But it's a lot of information. What's up, Manny? Glad to have you here, my friend. So I want to make people aware that I actively steer people away. I had a guy who was upset with me the other day. One, because he was just a troll trying to get stuff for free. But I even sent him to a competitor, right? Because they may have had a book or something that was cheaper than what we offer. And he really got bent out of shape over it, and I kind of turned it into a funny little meme on our Facebook page. But reality is, I was trying to give the guy a solid because I can't offer prices cheaper than what we offer him, So it is what it is. Plus, you get all the access to so much other stuff that I'm like, dude, it is what it is. But he got bent out of shape. So I'm actively making sure that students realize that you need to study actively for at least 12 weeks to be sure that you walk into that exam and you're really comfortable. If you're questioning yourself, and a guy I talked to the other day, he did join the program, and he sounds like a great guy. He kind of psyched himself out before he even took the exam. And it happens a lot. So again, it's all a mental thing as well, staying focused in the way you study, and we try to do that in our program. Okay. All right, so David's already jumped on this question. So we've got a question on the screen. The question is, where independent support wires are used for electrical equipment in a non-fire rated assembly, they shall be distinguished by what? Now, interesting enough, whether or not it's a fire rated assembly, and think of it this way. The easiest way to think of this, right, and we'll look up the question, but the easiest way to think of this is above a suspended ceiling. So you have a drop ceiling, you have those acoustical tiles that drop in, right? And you have this space above the ceiling. Now you have the independent wires that are designed to hold the grid up. Now they've been evaluated for the weight, for a typical grid, but they have not all been evaluated for the grid plus holding up a wiring method. Okay, so I'm not to say that there's none out there, but in reality, they haven't. They've only been evaluated and they've been placed along the system by the grid installer based on their parameters to support that grid, not to support a wiring method. Makes sense? So in reality, if we're going to support our wiring methods, our boxes above a suspended ceiling, for example, then we're going to have to put our own independent wire supports. Okay. Now, if you think of this in this question, well, it's not about a wiring method, right? It's not about whether it's MC and 330, AC and 320, any of that. It's basically a general requirement. It's saying, look, I'm putting some type of electrical equipment above a suspended ceiling or independent support above an assembly. How am I supporting that wiring method? Well, that should be a trigger in this type of question. That should be a trigger for the general requirements, okay? And those general requirements in Article 300. So that should be the kind of the go-to when you're looking at that. Now, with that said, one of the things that we train students on is to get used to understanding how to use the index. Now, it's not to be a total crutch. It means that if you go into an exam and all you do is try to look up every single question and go to the index and then come back and go to the index and then come back, look, I got news for you. You're not going to pass. And you're going to find yourself with the 30 minutes left in the exam. You're going to look up and see how many questions you have left, and then you're going to start guessing. Okay, you're going to start just guessing all around. Oh, I should remind people, we're using the 2023 NEC today because I realize that exam prep, no state has adopted the 2026 yet. So we're using the 2023. I should probably have said that up front to everybody, but it just makes sense. I'll do some training on the 2026, but since it's not really adopted anywhere yet and it's not being used on any exams, we're gonna fall back to the 2023 for this kind of stuff. Okay. What's up, John? Glad to have you here, my friend. Okay. All right. So that's where we're at. So now if we go to the NEC, now, like I said, general requirement. It's about supporting electrical equipment and MC cables, electrical equipment, AC cables, electrical equipment, boxes, electrical equipment, all those type of things. That's where we got to remember what we're doing here. Now, if I was dissecting this, I would say, okay, well, since this is very specific about independent support wire, okay, I would think that that might be something. Electrical equipment may be something. So when I talk to you folks about dissecting a question, I like to cover these things up front because it has been a while since we've done some exam prep. When I say dissect a question for you out there that are not just studying, but in the field and you're just trying to hone your skills, like Josh is always trying to hone his skills. You should be going in and out of your code book with a question and not trying to answer it in a 2-minute segment. Okay, save that for the last 2 weeks. Okay, save that for the last 2 weeks. Up until then, yeah, I didn't say it, Josh. So yeah, I've been using the 2026 lately. So I realized that I had to jump back because nobody's testing on it, that type of thing. So what's up, John? Glad to have you here, my friend. So dissect it. So that's the best advice I can give somebody that's studying for the NEC is in our program, we're going to give you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. Don't be in a hurry to answer these questions so quickly. You get what I'm saying? Don't be in such a hurry. Dissect it. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so let's do one really quickly. Let me go on and do this real quick. Let's go on and go to here. This is the NEC, but let's kind of go here first. So this is your table of contents, and I don't have a table of contents yet. I don't have an index yet for the 2026. So somebody out there has one that has every page of the index and it's a PDF and you want to send it to me, I appreciate it. We'll try to give you some little goodie to thank you for your maybe a subscription to Fast Trax Tube if you want it, that type of thing. Maybe a subscription to StudyHog if somebody wants to do that for me. Don't everybody do it. Only one person needs to do it. All right, but anyway, let's see here. So let's see. If I was going to use those key things and I was going to go into the index, let's see. Maybe I want to go and look under independent support, okay? All right, so again, I'm going to go look under and see what I might see. Let's see here. So I'm going to go back is industrial information. Let's go here. And all right, so we have independent. Okay, we have independent, and that's supports, but that's over buildings. Let's see here. Here's independent support emergency. Doesn't really, none of that really helps us any. Let's see here. And also, you could be doing this too in your code book while we're doing it, trying to see how you would dissect this question if you wanted to use the index. By some reason, you just didn't understand. Okay, so I don't see anything under that, okay? So the next that I might go look under is maybe support, okay, because it is a function of what it's doing. So let's go see if I see anything under support. And again, you may not see that, but we're going to go look anyway. All right, so I'm going to go look under support, see if I see anything. Again, we're learning how to study and how to use your code book today. Let's see here. Okay, so we got here's supports. Okay, and support, okay, supports, see, securing and supporting. So it says right here, see, securing and supporting and support under entries for specific wiring and cable. Okay, so let's see here. Not sure, see, subheading, securing. Okay, so we'll have to go look under securing, all right? And okay, so that's given us to securing. So now let's go to send us back to securing. So let's go back to that and see what we're looking for. And I'm going to tell you real quick, I'm going to make a statement out here. Right, hold on, let me get back. You got to bear with me because I'm doing it using this here. Let's see here. And again, it's much easier to do this with your code book, trust me, than it is trying to do it with this daggone thing. And I'm not seeing anything there, whether I'm missing it or not. I'm not seeing it. Any comments coming in? Let's see here. I know code sections. We already should know where we go, but I'm trying to see if there's anything. What's up, Fernando? Glad to have you here. Trying to see if there's anything in here. I don't see anything under that. Let's see here. Let's see here if we see anything under fire rated assemblies. Okay, and we have non-fire rated assemblies and fire rated assemblies. Let's go on and see if there's anything under there. And then I'll address something really quick that people have sent me before about the index. Okay, so hold on here. Let me go to. It's really harder, folks, to do it this way. Be glad that you don't use a PDF version, right? It does not make it better. Trust me. All right, so where are we at? So let's see, we're gonna go under fire rated assembly. So let's go back up to F because they should be in the same place. So let's go here. All right, F. It is much harder to do it using PDF. Be glad you don't use this when you're doing your exam, okay? All right, so let's see here. I am up here. So here's fire resistance, fire spread, fire pump. Okay, don't see anything here. Fire alarms. I don't see anything in here, okay? I don't see anything under that. Okay. All right. So we could look under equipment. Okay. So we're already here. So let's look under equipment. Since we're already here. So here's equipment. And let's see. Anything under here? And this is a great one to bring me back to the point. Okay. So I don't see anything in an exam. Okay, so let's get back to the point here. All right, there's always somebody I got to ban. It always seems to be that kick that do these weird things from those gaming people. I'll get those people. All right, so point needs to be made here. The index is not the holy grail. Okay. You're going to get a question that you would dissect through, and your mind's going to think, all right, the index is perfect for everything. It is not. Now, there might be some back end way to get the UZ index for this, but it is not the holy grail. It is not. So you have to understand that what we're talking about here is more something to do with generalized applications. And that's where 300 comes in, because after you get past 300, then you start getting into specifics like, you know, the ampacities in 310 and those tables, and then you move on. So the general requirements, and this is talking about securing and supporting above a non-fire rated assembly of electrical equipment. That could be boxes, that could be MC cable, AC cable, raceways, those type of things. So that's why it's going to put us in 300. Right? So we're going to go to 300, the NEC, and we're going to bold scan. And we're going to specifically look for independent support wires reference. Okay? So let's go here. And let me get us back to the NEC. This tab right here. All right, so we're going to go here. And here you see general requirements for wiring methods and material. Okay, anything other than that really isn't getting germane into what we're talking about. So get used to that type of thing. So we're going to go to 300. And we'll get here. Now, you could look down the left side. This is easy for PDF, not so easy if you're using the code book. So we're going to assume you're using the code book and get rid of that. And we're going to bold scan. All right, so bold scanning is the next technique that you should be using. And that's where you take what's in the question. In this case, independent support wires, fire rated assembly, things like that. And you use that and you go through the bold headers in the code book until you see something that requires you to stop. And you do a quick scan of the information that's underneath the actual part or subdivision, okay? So here we're looking at it right here. There's nothing there, okay? Nothing there, nothing there, okay? Limitations, you know it's nothing to do with that. Conductors, it wasn't about that question. Not about the question, okay? None of this is about the question here. Physical damage, it wasn't anything about that, okay? All right, so this is non-metallic. Obviously, it wasn't in 300.4 or anything like that, okay? It wasn't an underground installation, so you can simply skip by that. And you'll see that this is probably quicker than going to the index if you understand where you need to be. The only way you're going to get better on that is to do it. And that's why our program puts you in and out of the code book, just to make it better. Okay. Now you could do that with any program. You just have to be familiar with going in and out of the code book. All right. So it has nothing to do with 300.6, right? All right. Nothing to do with 300.7. Nothing to do with 300.8. Nothing to do with 300.9. Nothing to do with 300.10. Securing and supporting. Okay, now we're talking about securing or supporting electrical equipment above a non-fire rated assembly, correct? All right, so in that scenario, we know we're in the right place. And it says securing in place. Raceways, cable assemblies, boxes, cabinets, fittings shall be securely fastened in place, right? And then you start getting down to wiring system installed above suspended ceilings, all right? All right, so support wiring does not that do not provide secure support shall not be the sole support. Support wires and associated fittings that provide secure support and that are installed, I got these pop-ups coming up, that installed in addition to the ceiling grid system shall be permitted to be the sole support. Here, it says where independent support wires are used, they shall be secured at both ends. Okay, so just so folks ask me these questions all the time, we're not talking about putting a support wire in there that's connected at the top ceiling structure and then it hangs down like a trapeze. Okay, it has to be taut and it has to be secured at both ends. So if you're putting in another wire that's like what's holding up the grid, you're going to connect it to the grid, but you're going to use a separate independent wire and it needs to be taut. And it's not what's holding up the grid. Yes, it's technically going to the grid, but it's its own independent support wire, okay? Now, other than that, all we're doing at that point is determining whether or not it's a fire-rated assembly or a non-fire rated assembly. And in our question, it was a non-fire rated assembly. So right here. Okay, so the answer to this one code-wise is 300.11 B2, and it says the wiring located in the cavity of a non-fire rated floor, ceiling, or roof ceiling assembly shall not be secured to or supported by the ceiling assembly, including the ceiling support wire. Okay, so it tells you that right up front. That's why we're putting an independent support wire. Makes sense. Then it says an independent means of support shall be provided and shall be permitted to be attached to the assembly. So you can attach it to the grid and so each end is taut. Okay. It says the independent support wires are used. They shall be distinguishable by color, tagging, or other effective means. Now, when we say other effective means, we're basically saying whatever the AHJ is okay with or whatever distinguishes itself so that it stands out. So again, I don't know any other way other than a lot of times what we would do is we'd lay them all on the ground before the project started. We made the little tie wires. The ceiling grid folks would leave us some tie wires, some ties, and we would just spray paint them all red, okay, to make it distinguishable, that type of thing. Okay. Now, there is an exception here. It says the ceiling support system shall be permitted to support branch circuit wiring and associated equipment were installed in accordance with the ceiling system's manufacturer's instructions. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you may have a ceiling system that has a certain parameter. It's been evaluated to have wiring methods supported by it, but that gets dictated by the manufacturer of the ceiling grid system. That's not up to the AHJ. That's not up to you. That's not up to your observation. That has to be something that is given in the ceiling manufacturer that made the grid system to say that you could do two MC cables or two AC cables, or you can spur a box or whatnot. So that is different. So the general rule is that you're going to not support wiring methods. You're not going to support boxes, raceways to the same wire that's holding up the ceiling grid. You have to have your own separate, okay? The exception is only when the manufacturer of that ceiling grid assembly has some literature that says that you can do that. And if they do, then you can, that type of thing. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so back to the question. So obviously, this one is easy for us, right? So there you go. Yeah, interesting. So I have moaned about this, David, of course, I'm the last person that NFPA will listen to, right? They don't care much for me anyway. So you have to also remember, David, that they're not interested in us educators using Link anyway. So, if they put it in there, we would use it. And since you can't really use Link on an exam anyway, but index is still good for when you're in the field. I mean, that's why we use a code book in the field. So yeah, I don't know, but they don't give that either. Yeah, so I wish they would. Lucky for me, my index again is PDF that somebody sent to me. I think somebody had the loose leaf version and they pulled them all out and they just took pictures of them, each one of them, and put it in a PDF, and that's what I got. That type of thing. Okay. Let's see, Jonathan. What is it? Jonathan's got a question here. He says, as an apprentice, should I already be studying, just gain experience? You should be doing both. Jonathan, you should be keeping your head in the National Electrical Code. Yeah, a lot of apprenticeship programs are going to have a period towards when you get to your third year or fourth year where you'll do NEC. But for many people, it can be a struggle. So I encourage you to be always engaged in it, because remember, the hands-on is one part of the brain. The knowledge and experience is the other part, right? So you want to constantly be one feeding the other. So nothing's to take the place of the hands-on, but the mental part of the game, you have to constantly be learning, and you're just going to be ahead of the curve. If you're an apprentice and you start learning the NEC, you're going to be ahead of the curve, okay? All right, let's go to another one. All right, so this question says, sign and outline lighting outlets shall be calculated at a minimum of blank VA for each required branch circuit. Okay, so when I see a question like this, the first thing I realize is this is a calculation, right? And my mind's thinking, okay, if this is a calculation, there is one specific article that I go to And that's going to change in the 2029 edition of the NEC, right? But I have one specific article that I go to. Actually, it changes in the 2026, I think. Yeah, goes to 120. But I think of one place. If you're in the 2023 edition or the 2020 edition, I'm thinking 220 because that's calculations. Now, it also reminds me that it's talking about a branch circuit. So this is why I study with students all the time and say, how important is it to learn the structure of the NEC? To learn that there's certain parts. There's general part 1, there's branch circuits part 2, there's standard calculation methods, for example, in part 3 of 220. There's the optional in part 4. So the more you get used to that, when I look at a question like this and I see that it's asking me about a certain value, and once I saw that word calculated, then I'm starting to think, this is a calculation question, or this is a number or a value that I'm going to need for a calculation, right? So I'm dissecting this out going, okay, now, can I go to the index? Absolutely, I can go and look at sign and outline lighting outlets. I could probably even go look under outlets. And it's important for us to take a moment and realize that an outlet is not a receptacle. That's a device. And I say this a million times, but you'd be surprised how many people get that confused. An outlet is a point on the electrical system where I'm taking power from the system. Okay, whether I come to a junction box and now I'm going to put a whip over to some piece of equipment or a liquid tight over to a piece of equipment, okay, that box is the outlet. That is the point where I'm taking the power from the system, from the building's structural wiring, okay? And so a lot of people will get confused when they look at something, and then we do it, slang. We do it all the time. We call receptacles. We go, oh, there's an outlet there, there's an outlet there, there's an outlet there. But in reality, an outlet is the point where that device receptacle goes in it, where that switch, which is a switch outlet, goes, a switch device goes in the outlet itself, okay? Hardwired stuff that's directly hardwired, okay? It's being wired from the building over to the equipment, then that is an outlet, right? Makes sense? Okay, because a lot of people get lost in that. So in this case right here, sign and outline lighting is pretty specific, but I tell you right now on this question, when I see this asking about a value for the calculating the load, and it's a branch circuit, I immediately think part 2 of 220, and I immediately think, okay, I'm going to where I get all of these values for calculating. And that's going to take me into 220. So let's go there, and I'll get us back there. So I'm going to go boom. And so here I see branch, feeder, and service load calculations. Boom, I click on it, right? And here we are at the very beginning. The general gives you an idea of the structure, okay? Get some other rules here, and then we got basic principles for our calculation. This is where we get our fractions, so we round up when we're doing amps. 0.5 or greater, we round up. Less than 0.5, we can round down. This is where we get our floor area values. In other words, how we're going to do our measurements when we're doing the square footage and we're doing a dwelling calculation, things like that. That's where we're going to get that at. But now we're right in part 2, and this is branch circuit. This was very much a branch circuit type question. Link, you got these quick jumps right here, right? But we know that we're going to be actually in the very first one because we're talking about loads in general, right? In this case, we're talking about sign and outline lighting. So we're not going to jump. We're going to do the bold scan. So here we go. There's the maximum load, okay? Other loads, okay? All occupancies. All right, so we're going to skip and try to find out what we're dealing with. And we know that ours was specific to sign and outline lighting. Now, sign lighting, outline lighting, I'm sure you've seen it on pictures back, the buildings that has these lighting around the edges that identify or outline the building and things like that, accent lighting around the building, all that's like outline lighting, okay? All right, so we go down and we see right here, there it is, F. Okay, so the code reference is 220.14F. Right? And it says sign and outline lighting outlets shall be calculated at a minimum of 1200 VA for each required branch circuit specified in 650.5A. Now, key takeaway here, and be careful on an exam because this is simply saying What is the minimum VA? As you all know, that in the real world, you may actually have values on a blueprint or a drawing or a specification that actually is higher than the minimum. So which do you use? Well, you use what's on the drawing. You use what's presented to you. In an exam, you could have the same type of question, right? You could have a value. Instead of it asking you what the minimum is, it could give you a value. So remember that the 1200 in this case is the minimum, and that answers our question. But they could give you some kind of question that actually asks you what is the actual value they use for a sign and lighting outlet that is, I don't know, 2400 VA. And in your mind, if you're thinking, well, the code says minimum of 12, but that wasn't what the question was. You go with what the question asks, and basically that's the minimum. But if the question says that it's 2400, you go with the 2400 to answer that question. Does that make sense? So be careful. Those are not trick questions. That's just the way the question is being asked. So you just want to make sure that you are very aware of how the question is being asked, right? Does it make sense? All right. So in this question right here, obviously the answer is 1200, and we can see our code reference is 220.14F. So all of you that got that right. Also remember, you can ask me code questions here. That's what we're here for. So if you have any code questions, you're working on something in our program and you want to ask a question, please feel free to ask. I'll do my best to look it up for you. Okay. All right, let's do another one. All right. So this question, where a branch circuit or feeder originates in additional buildings. Okay, so now it looks like it originates in additional building. Okay, not the building you're in. It originates in additional buildings. Okay, that's important, and I think it's going to be important. It says, where a branch circuit or feeder originates in additional buildings or other structures, only blank feeders or branch circuits shall be permitted to supply power back to the original building or structure unless permitted in the code. Okay, so there may be allowances the way this is worded to say, let me paint the picture for what it's talking about. Okay, for you folks to paint this mental picture. I'm in a building, and it may be campus style, or it may be a building, I have other buildings that have a feeder or branch circuit run to it. So I'm running a circuit to say a feeder to another building. But in that building, I have a feeder or branch circuit that originates in that building, may be supplied by another building to that building, but from that building, it's now going to come back, okay, to the original building, right? Can I have just a bunch of branch circuits and feeders going from one building to another and then turn around and have them come back? Man, how confusing would that be, right? I've got feeders and branch circuits running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, when we say unless permitted by code, we're going to say, okay, maybe there's something that's going to allow you to have more than one. But for me, I'm thinking, well, it makes sense that I'm going to have only one, right? So that's my first premise, but we have to go look it up. Now, in this one right here, we're saying, okay, where am I looking at? Where would I find this information right here? Okay, so it's talking about feeders and branch circuits. Okay, so the first thing that I would probably look at for me is under branch circuits. That's in the index, or look under feeders, okay, in the index. I'd also be looking under additional buildings in the index to see if you just don't know what's in there. And so that's an opportunity for you to get more familiar with the code. Now, look, if there's an educator out there that tells you not to do that, they're not worth the salt. Don't give them their money, because they're not teaching you right. Right? There is a method to structured teaching. I've been doing this for nearly 40 years with over 80,000 students that have been through our programs through the years. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. That does not mean that you do it the wrong way that you're not going to pass the exam, because you're still going to get knowledge. But there is a systematic right way and a wrong way. It's just like the three-way method. Hold on for a second, folks. I don't want to lose my TikTok, folks. There is a right way and a wrong way to take the exam. In other words, a three-way method. That doesn't mean that if you don't use a three-way method, you're not going to pass. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that. It's just to increase your odds, to increase your potential for success. There is a better way to do it. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so in our case, a couple things that I'll be looking at, and Paul's hit it right here. Since we're talking about another building, outside building, so this is outside feeder and branch circuit because it's not in the same building. It's leaving another building to come back to another building. So this is an outside branch and feeder. So you immediately should be thinking 225. 225 is not big. So you could go bold scan it and look for these specific terms, okay? However, you could go look in the index under outside branch and feeder because that is a legitimate code article in 225. Okay, not 210 for branch circuits, not 215 for feeders, but under branch circuit or feeder in the index, you may be able to find this information. So for us, let's go on and look under feeder real quickly and see what we see under feeder. And we're actually going to start by going to 215, even though that's for feeder in a building. We're going to start by going there. Okay, so let's go. And oops, we don't have a guest today, unfortunately. All right, so let's go here. And let's go to, let's share this screen here. And we'll just go to under feeders really quickly and see what it may be able to help us. Now here's feeders. Okay, so if we were looking under feeders and we were clicking through it pretty quickly, and we're saying, okay, feeders, and you see identification, okay, feeders, outside, okay. Outside branch, and now this is an example where you've got to use, there is no substitute. So the gentleman that asked about hands-on in the field and in the learning as an apprentice, this is an important question. We'll come back to this, but this is important. Nothing is going to take the place of you learning the concepts, the slang, the trade, the terminology, right? All those type of things, because the index isn't a perfect world, but the quicker that you can narrow this down on an exam. So for me, when I saw this question, I'm immediately thinking it's outside because again, it's trying to leave a building with a branch or feeder. So it's got nothing to do with 215 or 210, right? That's my mind. That's how I'm thinking. But when I'm studying, I want to look up and see all the possible ways to find this. But I do know that it's talking about leaving. Now, people say all the time, well, why are they trying to trick us on an exam? Why don't they just tell us that it's outside? Well, that would be too easy. You need to be able to read this and realize that, dude, it's leaving the building. It's going outside, that type of thing. So 2 ways to find this. You can go to 225 and start bold scanning, or you can do like we're doing, and we're kind of going through the index. All right, so there's the outside, right? Okay, so there we go right there. So then that would take us to the outside branch and feeders, and that's probably where I would go. But while we're here, we're just going to look at branch circuit real quick and see if that does the same thing. I'm sure it does. All right, so there we go. So here's branch. Where are we at here? Okay, here's branch circuit. Okay, and we're kind of going down, and we're going to see what we've got here. Branch. Keep going. Anything is helpful, individual, got it. Okay, and branch, quickly bolts, okay, quickly scanning it, boom, outside branch feeder. So we know where we need to be, okay? Now I could have also looked under additional building, okay? Just for craps and giggles, we'll just go look since we got the time and it's my show, okay? Let's see if we see anything under additional buildings by any chance. I'm just looking. All right, might be even something that you look under buildings, that type of thing. Okay, this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be spending your time studying. Dissect the hell. You pay good money for code questions. Dissect it, right? And we're going to go look at StudyHog for a second, and I want to show you how you can use StudyHog. But anyway, so let's kind of go to where we need to be. We needed to be an outside. Now let's actually go into that real quick, outside, because that kept pushing us to outside branch and feeders. So let's go there on the index. Let's see here. Okay. I get you dizzy, folks. Okay, so here is outside branch and feeder, right? So that's calculation. Notice how this is indented underneath it. So that means that this has to do with the calculations of load. So these are, so that's why you see that indentation, in case you ever wondered. It helps you when you're going through the index. All right, let's go back up here. All right. Okay, so we've got, what is this? Somebody texted me. Okay, so we got there. Now here's clearances. Not really what we're covering. Let's see. Okay, more than one building or structure. Okay, so that's in part 2. So we know we're going to be in part 2 of 225. But let's see if we see anything else that gets us deeper and maybe gives us some more information while we're here. Okay. Well, this is separate derived system. This is outside of a building, right? But that's 250s. That's not really what we're looking for, right? So we're just kind of, okay, so that's it. So where do we know we need to be? We need to be in part 2 of 225. But even if we didn't do that, even if you knew to go to 225, which is what we're going to do because we like to do things the hard way, we're going to go to 225. And we're going to show you how to bold scan again. All right, so 225. And again, there's going to be people out there. I've got tons of haters in the world for some real reason. I don't even know them. They're going to say that's not the way to do it. They probably took the exam 10 times, yet they're all of a sudden an authority on how to do it. Trust me, I'm trying to help you pass it on the first go. Right? So, all right, so here you go. So here's 225. Right here. So we're going to go to the very beginning here. Okay. So we're trying to find about additional buildings and permitted to supply power back. All right. So again, this is 3.3, irrelevant. Conductor installation, irrelevant. Conductor sizing and support, irrelevant. Wiring of a building structure, irrelevant to our case. Feeder and branch circuits, entering and exit, irrelevant. If you look at it real quickly, you'll see it has absolutely nothing to do with 1, 2, 3, or 4. Any of that language in there. Remember, use the answer to also help you. Okay, has nothing to do here, nothing to do here. This is bold scanning, folks. It only takes you a second on an exam if you're stuck. Boom, attached to a building, not about it, and nothing to do with it. Clearance overhead, absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Okay, nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Nothing about vegetation. Nothing about sealing raceways. Boom. Part 2. Buildings or other structures supplied by feeders or branch circuit. Ding, 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 ding. Here we go. Now, we see 225.30. It's the number of supplies. Okay, so remember, this is the number of supplies, and it has nothing to do with service. That has its own rules in 230.2. We're dealing with the number of supplies, and again, it's branch circuit to feeder. Okay, so it says a building or other structure shall be served by a branch circuit or feeder on the load side of a service disconnect means shall be supplied by only one feeder or branch circuit unless permitted in 225.30A through F. And that is similar to services where you may have fire pumps, you may have something for generator applications, reliability. There's other allowances, but the general rule, and that's all we saw in this question, is the general rule. It said 1. That was it. There are other special conditions, right? Fire pump, emergencies, things like that. You've got other allowance for special occupancies, capacity requirements, different characteristics. Maybe it's a 12240 and a 208, 277 coming to a building. Those are different characteristics that would allow that to happen, but not in our case. 1, that's it. So we take it back to the question, and it's just 1. And there it is, 225.30. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so, simple process of elimination. Now, again, this question, I could have tried to use deductive reasoning of logical sense. Like I'm not gonna have a bunch that are coming back to a building, just like I'm not gonna have a bunch of services coming into a building unless I have some other allowances due to capacity, different characteristics, maybe it's a fire pump, or something like that, parallel power production system, or something else. Common sense can go a long way But again, you got 2 minutes roughly on a question. If I was on the exam and I would get a question like this and I didn't know right away, if I know right away the first wave, I'm answering it. If I don't know and I spend a minute and a half on it, I'm going to mark it and move on to the next one, because chances are you're going to stumble across the answer as you get further. But then when you come back to it, you're going to use deductive logic. Why 2? Why 3? Why 4? Can it get confusing? Now, what I can promise you is, why do we push structured programs? Whether it's my program or somebody else's, it doesn't matter. The reason we push structured programs on people rather than just random ass studying in a code book, the reason we push structured programs that get you moving in and out of the NEC, because these are things that you're going to remember, because you get it in your course. You're going to learn it. And because you learn it, it means that in that first wave, you're going to be able to answer things that you know. And that's going to buy you a lot of time, okay? There's a method to the madness, folks. Just kind of stay focused on that, because there is a proper way to do this, okay? I'm not making this stuff up, I promise you. All right, let's go to another one. All right, next. All right, the question says, an intersystem bonding terminal shall provide at least blank terminals for making terminations to other systems. Okay, quick little lesson here. So an intersystem bonding termination is terminology that you may or may not be familiar with. So basically, if I have a building or structure and I have a, let's say I have a satellite system, maybe a Starlink system, or maybe I have a dish network, or maybe I have some other communication system coming in, okay? These are systems that require bonding. And they all must be bonded together so that we don't have the possibility for a potential lightning strike that could jump or dissipate or jump over to something that is not connected together and isolate it to the point where it gets energized, even if it's for that moment, that could be a high impedance path that, for example, could cause an arc, which could cause a fire. Also, it could cause the sudden spike in voltage to come into the system and damage electronics. There's a reason why now we require surge arresters and surge protective devices in certain applications, right? But when we're talking about tying systems together so that they act as one, an intersystem bonding terminal is bringing all of those systems together. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Now, you get 2 options in the code. You get a device that is designed, and it's called an IBT, that you would install next to the meter or next to the emergency disconnect or next to the service disconnect. That's where you would bring the bond for the dish network, or for the, what's the other one? Dish network in, what's the other one? The other big one. Dish network in DirecTV. Yeah, you bring them, aren't they the same now? Aren't they the same? Whatever. Anyway, you bring their bonding components in one location. But those are intersystem bonding terminations for communication systems. If you want to bring things like PV, array bonding, and all that kind of stuff to this location, then you're not going to use an intersystem bonding terminal. You get another option in the code. It means I could put a bus bar there. Okay? And if I put that bus bar there, then that can be used for bonding other things together. The intersystem bonding terminal is designed for communication systems, okay? That's what that is designed for, all right? So, first and foremost, when I look at a question like this and I see intersystem bonding terminals shall be at least blank terminals for making terminations of other systems, I'm thinking bonding. It says bonding. So I'm thinking 250, right? Now, I'm also thinking that this is a pretty defined term right here, right? Intersystem bonding terminal. So that's a no-brainer for me to go and look in the index under intersystem bonding terminal, right? Seems like a no-brainer. So we'll go look under that in the NEC. And we'll go on and go to the index, and I'll share this here. All right, so we'll go on and look, because that seems pretty straightforward. And I'll look under intersystem if you don't know where to go in the code. So let's see, let's go. Okay, so we've got, let's see here. Bear with me, because again, my eyes are terrible. And so let's see here. I'm sure it's in here. I am just blind, and it's only getting worse as I get older. Trust me. All right, we're going to go 2 places first. So I'm looking to see here if there's anything in here in intersystem bonding. All right, I don't see anything unless I'm missing it under eyes. Okay, y'all tell me if I'm missing something, because let's see here. Not seeing it here, but we want to look at everything. Okay, here we go. It is right here. Right here, sorry. Okay, right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. Right here. But you'll notice that it says intersystem bonding. It says 545.27 and 770. Okay? And I can tell you right now, we'll go look at the 545 and I'll show you what it does, but we'll go look at that. But there's another way. Since you know that this is a bonding component, that you know it's under 250, so that you could also look under bonding, okay, in the back of the index if that's what you want to look under. And you also can use a table of contents as well to look under and find something, because there is possibly a specific requirement, a section for intersystem bonding terminations, right? But we're trying to dissect it real quick. And let's go to 545, just to go to 545.27 and show you kind of how we would get there. So let's go here, because that's, we're thinking, okay, well, that's the closest we can get. All right, so let's see. If you get it another way, put it in the comments. All right, so 545 says, okay, let's go there, because it said go there. All right. And let's go down to where it said go. Scroll down. In case you go this route. Oops, 525, right here. Is it right here? Hold on for a second. Where did it say go? 27. Sorry about that. All right, 27. Okay, intersystem bonding. Okay, so it sends you here, and you're looking at seeing it here, and you would look at it and say, let's see here. All right. I don't see anything that has to do with the question. However, what does it say? It says where 2 or more relocatable structures are, it says all this, but it says that the bonding termination is in accordance with 250.94. So it's an ascend way around it, but when you use the index it sent us here, you see that it's 250.94. Now, the good news about making this journey is because now you're going to forever know that, okay, wait a minute. When it comes to intersystem bonding and those terminations, and I know it's bonding, I know I need to be in 250. We're at in 250. And so it would be 94, okay? But we're not going to stop there. We're going to go back to the index, and we're going to go really quick up to bonding. And we're also going to look under communication. But we're going to look under bonding just to see what we may have under bonding. Okay, bonding. Okay, so let's see. So here's our bonding, right? And so we're going to quickly scan down it because we know bonding with this question is intersystem bonding. So we're going to see if we can find it this way as well, save us a little time. So we're scrolling down. Ah, I see intersystem bonding again. And it's sending us back to that 545. All right. So, and then I'm seeing if there's anything else since I'm here. And I don't see anything else. So that's an ascend way to get there. But unless you know something else to get there, communication. Because this is talking about intersystem bonding is communication terminals. Again, for somebody that comes in late, and I see people dropping off, this is why I don't do the weekly shows as much anymore. Because again, I acknowledge that I'm boring as hell. Right? And, so again, I don't do as many of these as I used to. Okay. So we're going back to communication really quickly. and see what we'd see under communication and see what we may have. Communication circuits. Okay, I'm just looking under and seeing what we may see. Communication equipment, communication providers, communication systems. And I'm looking down and seeing if I see anything that would be beneficial to me. Okay. Nope, I don't see anything. So that was our back way of doing it. Now, if we go to the NEC, back to the NEC, and we go to, for example, oops, I want to stay back in, we get back into this here. If we go to the table of contents, if I can get there, if it'll allow me, if there is one. I don't even know if we have one. That's the code making panel, folks. I don't really care about that. David, do they not even allow the table of contents anymore? Even in Link? You can't even get to the table of contents. Wow. Poor step by NFPA. Poor step. So anyway, if I were to go to 250, all right, and I'm going to use let's use the pictogram now. And we're at 250. All right, here's a scope 250, and I were to use this type of thing, right? Then I'm gonna say, okay, where would my scope be? All right, and so it looks like that's grounding. So it looks like in our case we're making bonding. Okay, so it makes you think it would be in part 5, but we already know what? We already know that it was .94 because that's where we had to do that roundabout way to get there. So we're gonna go to .94. And it just happens to be under bonding. So you could have gone here and just gone to, I don't know if that's clickable. I don't think it is. Part 5 and start bold scanning from there because it was a bonding. So that does cut down some time for you if you wanted to go to the pictogram for that because you know it's a bonding question. And then you're going to bold scan and we're looking for the term intersystem bonding. So here's that. Here's services. We know it's not that. I've done episodes on service bonding, so make sure you check that out. So communication, okay? Remember, this is an intersystem bonding terminal. It's for communication, and here you see intersystem bonding terminal device for communication, not for PV, not for CSST. This is communication that we're using the IBT for, okay? So it says the intersystem bonding termination for connecting intersystem bonding connections shall be extend to enclosures at the service equipment or metering equipment enclosure and at the disconnecting means for any building or structures that are supplied by feeder or branch circuits. If the IBT is used, it shall comply with the following. Okay? So you got all these rules, right, that you follow. And then you go down here and you've got right here, set of terminals with the capacity to connect not less than 3 intersystem bonding conductors. So we looked for the term 3. Now this could throw you because on the answers you're looking for numerical value, a 2, a 3, a 4, or 6, right? Don't let that throw you. They could give it to you on the question as a number, or they could give it to you as 3 and write it out. Don't let that throw you, okay? And you see that the answer is 3. Now, I told you that this is for communication. What if I want to have something that allows me to bring my CSSC bond, or you want me to bring my PV bond or anything like that from the arrays or whatever, if I have that on a structure? Well, you got to go down here and you have other means. Other means allow you to do it with, for example, aluminum or copper bus bar, not less than 1/4 inch thick by 2 inches wide, and the length. Okay, so on an exam, it gives you dimensions. Okay, it doesn't tell you the length. Why? Because the length is going to be dictated by the number of terminations that you need. By base amount, it needs to be at least 1/4 inch thick and 2 inches wide. And any of those bars that are designed to stand off for this are going to at least meet that. But they're going to have more than 3. They're going to have a bunch of terminals on it. Okay. So again, so this one down here is not specific to communication, okay? This one here is specific to communication, okay? All right? Keep that in mind when you're looking at it, all right? Okay. Just so you kind of keep that in mind. And another reason for that is these are how these things are listed. The IBT is typically listed for communication, but you have other ways to do it. Now, if you find one that allows you otherwise, then again, follow the listing. But in general, that's what you're going to get, okay? All right, so in this case, it is 3 right here. Boom, 3. All right, and that is correct. And our code reference is 250.94A2. And Josh got that well. He also went up in 800. Yep, 800 in communications, which is now in the 2023 and in the 2026. 800 is kind of like its general location for all the general stuff for communication systems, right? Strapping, supporting, all the general stuff. So if you have a general question on an exam about communication and securing, supporting, protection, and all that, and it's not specific to like CATV or premise powered broadband or non-premise powered, if it's a general question, then guess what? Go into 800. That's general. And that's where you're going to probably find that answer, okay? But feel free to use the index. But again, don't let it be a crutch for you, right? I prefer students to take your time, okay? Go in and out in your program, right? Now, let's take a code question. Let's take that question that we just had and show you what StudyHog is before we kind of go away. So let's go back to here and let's go here and I'll share this. Okay, so for those that have it, so this is StudyHog right here. So first I gotta log in. I'm gonna log into my account. I'll log in as the Chief Hog. And forget some stuff you may see on the screen. There we go, we're gonna log in. Okay, so real quick, so let me come back to me real quick. Let me explain what StudyHog is all about. Okay, hold on, let me make sure it does this here. Hold on, let me make sure it's loaded because Jeff is still working on it right here. So let me see, let me send a message to Jeff, make sure he's not in it so that it works. If anybody's out there using it this morning, then it's working, okay? So, okay, it looks like it's working. Okay, so it's live, so he's not working it. All right, so where would you use StudyHog? So folks out there who saw that we just introduced this tool, it's very much like TradeHog. The only difference is we wanted to create something that gives you never-ending questions. Constantly ask you new questions because you're spending good money for a program. I have a guy that was like, he said $300 for your program or whatever. I happen to think our prices on our products are the cheapest in the industry for what you get. Not everybody agrees. But at the end of the day, if you can't invest in yourself, just like you would invest in a set of tools, and I think Josh said it best, if you can't invest in yourself, and these courses don't expire, so it's a constant resource for you. Plus, people don't realize that in the course, you have access to what's called Fast Trax Interact, so you get actually access to me at any time to ask code questions. That alone gives you access to an expert if you're out in the field. But, and I've already had people dropping off. Paul, you're selling again. Sorry, that's what you're gonna get from me. Okay, this ain't electrician you. Okay, so it is what it is. All right, so let me show you what we got. So let's go over to here. Okay, so here I'm at. This is StudyHog. Okay, so let's see. So StudyHog is designed to be a supplement to studying, something you don't. Now, it doesn't have to just be code questions, by the way. You can post anything, you ask it any question you want, and it's going to frame it in a way that gives you the answer with very minimal fluff. So let's go on and paste the question in here that we asked. So here it is. It says an intersystem bonding terminal shall be provided at least blank terminations for making terminations to other systems. Okay. All right. So we already know the answer. So we're going to test the hog. So we're going to send it and see what the hog says. All right. Now, the first thing it's going to do is StudyHog is going to ask you which code cycle you're in. So we're going to say 2023. And I'm going to go on and say Virginia, even though we know Virginia is not on the 2023. But I'm just going to give it to it because that's what it's asking. And I'm going to hit send. And wait for it to come back with a response. Okay. All right. So see how it came back specific. If you like it, give me a whoop whoop inside the comments. But here it says at least 3. And it gives you the code reference. Okay. But here's the neat thing about the StudyHog. And this is what makes it unique. We're not going to let you leave that session without asking you another code question. Okay. So here it's going to actually ask you another code question. And we've changed it, Josh, because we didn't want it to asking a relevant question to what you just did, because we want it to be randomized. So we asked you another question here, okay? And you have an A, B, C, or D, and all you do is type A, B, C, or D. And if you want another one, you just type yes, right? So if I were to type yes, for example, and I want another one, I just type yes. And it'll bring me another code question. Oh, crap, did I forget to answer the other one? Oh, it just skips the other one because you didn't answer it. So here it created another one. In a dwelling unit, what is the minimum number of 20 amp branch circuits? For appliance, we know the minimum of 2, B, okay? And so you would just simply put B here. And you hit this. So what it's going to do is it's going to constantly be asking you different types of questions. And so this is a perpetual learning model, okay? Okay, and so it asks you all this. There you go, correct. Minimum of 2. And it gives you the code reference. All right, so this is something that's very unique to us. And we wanted to make sure that you, even though you have the hog, you don't have the trade hog because that's for use in the field. Okay, this is for use when you're studying, and it gets rid of all of the other fluff. It gets right to your answer, but it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that I can ask the StudyHog. Okay, let me show you what I mean, and it brings it in a way that is more concise for you when you're studying. For example, maybe Josh, maybe we were doing something earlier, and we said, okay, let's go over to it. And let's do this. Let's start a new one, and I'll go up here and click a new one, and it says, watch this. I'll go, hey Hog, explain the difference, oops, can't type this morning, in a non-fire rated assembly and a fire rated assembly for use in the National Electrical Code. Okay, so I'm just asking a question because I want to show you how this differs from how TradeHog will be used in the field. Okay, so again, it wants to know the code cycle. So we'll just say 2023 and we'll click send. Waiting for it to think. The hog has to have coffee too, by the way. All right, so let's go back up here to the hog. All right, so what has the hog done here? The hog has tried to break it down. Wow, good Lord, hog. All right. Okay, so the NEC, the code doesn't rate ceilings itself. Beautiful, beautiful answer. Can you tell that we've kind of worked on the hog? The building codes are what list that system. That's so important, okay? The NEC's job is to make sure your electrical work doesn't reduce whatever fire resistance the building design is supposed to have. Folks, look, let me tell you right now, you are not going to get those kind of responses from ChatGTP. We have worked hard on this, and this is why it's like no other. Cut the fluff, right to the point. That's what StudyHog does, okay? By the way, all of you out there that are already in our program, you get a discount to this if you want to add StudyHog or you want to start using it. That's up to you. It's in your module. It's in your course. If you log in, if you want it, great. If you don't, that's okay too, right? So there you go. William Budd says in Chicago, the classes are $1,500 for the same class as mine, but you get mine for, yeah, Appreciate you there. Again, it's true. Also, people pay $800 or $900 for a weekend crash course only to fail their exam because you cannot absorb that knowledge in 2 days. Again, I was shocked at people, and he said, Paul, you're not worth 300. Okay. He says, my head has gotten too big. I'm not worth 300. What has it got to do with my head? I don't get it. I don't understand people sometimes. And he did a disservice to IBEW because he says that he's an IBEW guy. And I know a lot of IBEW guys, they don't think like that. They have spent thousands on their tools. They spend thousands on their knowledge. This guy is in the minority. Trust me. I have a lot of guys I know that are at IBEW, and they are constantly wanting to learn. In fact, they always want to exceed what they're learning in the IBEW. Those guys want to learn. Okay. So again, I don't know what that guy was talking about. So anyway, look how detailed this gets, folks. What does non-fire rated assembly mean in the NEC? It says a non-fire rated assembly is a wall, floor, ceiling that is not required by the building code to have tested fire resistant ratings like 1 hour, 2 hour, etc. The NEC impact. Guys, do you realize the knowledge that you're getting here? Look at this, the NEC impact right here. You can't compromise the rating. Look at the code rules it gives you. Look, common practical consequences. And what is it going to do? Exam style distinction. It gives you some tips on how you can tell the difference on an exam. And then what is it going to do? Boom. Throws a code question at you, folks. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I have haters out there. I don't know. I don't even know them. And I don't want to please everybody, and I don't care. But I can tell you right now, there is nobody. If you can find somebody out there that offers more resources and products that help you get better at the NEC than me, I'll give it to you for free. Because I already know there's nobody that gives you all of the potential resources to learn, right? And we even offer a program now, the Supreme, that not only gives you the course, it gives you access to StudyHog, but it also gives you access to Fast Trax Tube, which is our video platform, all in one package, under $500. And the course never expires. So, hey, I don't know what else we can do, okay? I don't know what else we can do. All right, folks. Anyway, I just want to tell you, folks, I appreciate all of you that joined us this morning. We'll see you next Wednesday. We'll do some more exam prep. Next week, we're going to do some calculations. And so join us next week. We're going to go over some single-family dwelling calculations because it's been a while. And we're going to actually look at the calculation from the eyes of a 2026 NEC because I want to start getting people used to some of the changes that we're going to start seeing when it comes to where things are located and how you would calculate it out and where things are. The principles are going to be the same, so don't worry. If you're on the 2023 or you're testing on the 2020, the principles are the same. I will walk you through it. I will explain the differences, but make sure you put on your calendar to join. Every Wednesday, we're going to try to do this, and I usually will announce over in my forum. Josh is very active over on the forum. Make sure you go join it. Just go to NECCHAT, okay, .com. Okay, for all of you that are in that, just remember it's NECCHAT.com. I'll put that in the chat. That is the quickest way to get to our forum. All you got to do is register. You can look at it without registering if you just want to be a lurker, in the background. You're like, ooh, I don't want to get involved because I don't want to get involved. I can promise you on our forums, we will never belittle you. We will never, badmouth you. We will never degrade you. We will only lift you up. Josh does a lot of code questions. I will chime in on the questions. I try not to answer right away because I don't want to answer right away, and Josh doesn't want to answer right away. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to give you ways to learn. And for somebody out there that says that I'm just after the money for our courses, 300, 400, whatever, It's about the breadth of what we give. It's a Fast Trax system. It's not just a course. You're not only getting that, you're getting me. And I am always here for you. Now, sometimes my responses are short, but I've been known to respond to people at 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning. Okay, we have, let's say, Ask Paul feature, doesn't cost you anything. Okay, we have the chat rooms that don't cost you anything. The message boards don't cost you anything. If you have our course, we have Fast Trax Interact, where you can ask questions directly in your course. We give you over 800 questions on exams. Now we're giving you access to the StudyHog, and we're giving students a discount on that in your course profile. Okay, I don't know what else I can do. All right. So if you want to badmouth me over on Facebook or whatnot, that's okay too. I'll take the heat. It's fine. Also, I got to go, but I wanted to tell everybody that I appreciate all the thoughts that came in from my wife. And she's doing better. She's doing great. She's getting around now in a walker. She'll be progressing to a cane, and she's doing great. I appreciate all the thoughts. Mike Holt, shout out to Mike. And check out Mike's stuff as well. He's a great guy. Does a massive amount for the industry. So together, the 1-2 punch. Shout out to Brian and Mario that work with Mike. They're great folks, great people. Okay, so you can't go wrong. However you want to do it. Everybody has different flavors, right, of how you study in different courses. Mine is just structured different than most people. I don't do the stuff where the code panel stuff or the people back and forth. It's just me. And our program is designed to get you knowledgeable in the code quickly, okay? So that's what we do here, okay? And our questions, absolutely, William, our questions are designed to make you think, right? And you have competency reviews. Don't quickly get into our program and jump to the end of the program and do the practice questions. Don't do that. Go through the 19 units. Take your time. Focus on those competency reviews. Ask yourself the questions, those type of things. You're going to be a better electrician for it. Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless. I appreciate you all. We'll catch you next week. Peace out.